Hello. Welcome to this week's edition of Stencil Play. So this week we're going to pair our stencils with some watercolor paints. This is never neat. It's never neat. So these are the stencils I'm going to be using. They're from Dilutions and they're called Arrow Border Small. And you get 3 stencils in this. And so what I did was I marked where I thought the top and bottom of my photos would be because I wanted to make sure that the stencil would kind of peek out from behind the photos and make a band across the page. That was my original idea, but as I started to watercolor and work with this layout, my idea changed. So for me, when I do watercolors, this is my method with stencils. I've done it before. It's never, like I said, it's never neat. It's always going to look messy and watercolory and imperfect, and that's okay. That's kind of the point of watercoloring, I think. So what I do is I always go ahead and do just water through the stencil, so plain water, because the watercolor will only spread as far as that water is, which can be helpful, but water is always going to go kind of underneath the stencil a little bit, so it can also create some lovely little like splattery messy things. You'll see how we fixed that before, and even though this background is going to end up looking a little bit like a hot mess at first, it ends up being super cute at the end. So what I'm doing now is I'm adding the color. So I color matched the orange and the aqua-y color that's in my Felicity Jane London kit because I know that that's the kit I want to use for this layout. So I start with my water brush. I have a bunch of water brushes because I am using my Kiritaki watercolors and I don't want to mix them. I'd like to keep them in a palette and not mix the colors on the pans. So that's my plan for this. So it's just water and then color. And then the big reveal. So I blot my watercolors. I didn't use gesso or anything. That actually, the gesso for me makes the watercolor not want to stay in the stencil even more and creates just a ginormous mess. That's my experience with it. So what I do is I don't use gesso, and that lets the water kind of soak into the paper fairly quickly, which is good because then you kind of get more of those more of the shapes that you want. So I definitely blot, and then clean your stencil in between layers or colors. So now I'm just going to line the stencil up right here, and then I'm going to go back and do exactly the same thing till I get to that mark that I made at the bottom of my page. So here's a little tip for you. When I blotted this out, too much of my color came away, but you can still see the outline. So this is another great tip if you want the messy parts to be lighter, but the actual shape that you're doing a stencil with to be darker. And that is to come back through and just color in with a really dry brush and lots of pigment, lots of watercolor ink, paint on the brush, and then just go ahead and kind of color in the shapes. Another great tip for this is when you're picking your stencil, use a simple shape. This is about as intricate a stencil as I'm kind of willing to use with watercolor. And another really great idea is what I'm going to do here, which is take, after your watercolor is completely dry so your ink does not run, grab yourself a black pen. I am using my black Muji pen that I love and I buy in bulk from Amazon. And I'm going to just draw a lovely little doodly shape around my arrows. So I wanted to do 2 colors with this, with these arrows. I wanted to do the orangey color, and then I also want to do an aqua. So I'm just lining my stencil back up, and I'm going to go ahead and create 4 borders alternating between the orange and then the aqua. And again, same exact technique. Water first, mix your color, and then go in with the color. And then the same thing at the end. Blot it dry, clean your stencil between applications, and then I go back through with that black doodly stripe outlining my titles. Or my arrows, not my titles. Oy, cannot talk today. So here's the green, and again, this one needed a lot of filling in. So I did have my stencil shape there, I could see it, and so I'm just going back in with less water and more color because I think I had a little too much water. So this is completely fixable. If something like this happens with your stencil, it's totally fine. As long as you can see the shape that your stencil was in, you can go back through with a water brush and just don't put any water in it, just put all color, and then you can color in. And since this was a color that I had mixed myself, some of them got a little bluer and some of them got a little greener. That's okay though. So now I'm going to add my doodly borders and continue to work on my layout. So now we have our finished part. Now, as I was watercoloring these arrows and creating my backgrounds, I came up with a different plan, a different layout design for my layout, and that will sometimes happen. You know, you start thinking one way, and then as you go into creating, you decide you like the idea of something else better. So what I'm doing is I'm taking a 1/4 inch off of all 4 sides of my white cardstock, and I'm going to go ahead and back it with this yellow paper from my Felicity Jane London kit. So it's totally fine with me that I'm using this whole sheet of paper because of course this is cardstock, so it did have a little bit of warping, and backing it will help to stretch it and keep it flat. And I bought an extra paper pack with this month's Felicity Jane kit. So I have 2 of these papers. So I was totally cool with not getting it and just using the whole thing. So I'm just going to go ahead and get this background on my paper, and then we'll keep working on our layout. So now I have it all pulled and stretched, and the back of that yellow paper was this green design. So this is my page design. This is the page design I've decided to go with. I'm doing the large 4x6 photo. I mounted it onto that green pattern paper, which is another paper from the London kit. It's actually the back of the yellow paper. And then I pulled some embellishments to create a little bit of a cluster with just these 2 photos. And then this way, more of my background shows, but I didn't have to watercolor as many of those stencils. And I really think this layout turned out super duper cute at the end. So I'm just grabbing little embellishments. I don't want anything big. I don't want anything that's going to really cover up a lot of that stenciling. I want to be able to see it because I took a good bit of time to go ahead and stencil it and dry it and blot it and, all of that. It was a little bit of a process, so it wasn't something that was super quick that if I cover it all up, I'll be okay. I want it to be on display, and I think it turned out really, really cute and sweet. So now I'm just going through and getting an idea of where I want all of my embellishments to be. I'm not gluing anything down, just kind of playing around and deciding where I want things to go. So now I'm going to go ahead and work on my title, which is just going to be my nephew's name and how old he was when these photos were taken. And I decided to go ahead and grab my stapler and staple some of these pieces around the layout. I am pretty sure that beyond my scissors and my trimmers and things like that, my most used tool is my stapler. It makes an appearance on so many projects, and if you are a new scrapbooker, I really think a Tim Holtz tiny attachable stapler is a must buy. You will get so much use out of it. So now I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to adhere these little chipboard arrows, and what I'm doing is I'm using that stripe on my pattern paper to line the arrows up. So the arrows that go across the top of my photo are going to mimic almost exactly in placement from the top of the photo to the bottom of the photo, and I'm doing that just by lining it up with those stripes on my pattern paper, which is really cool. I love it when a pattern paper has a design that helps you to keep things straight and narrow and the same. I love that. So I'm going to put my nephew's age down here, and can I just say, Felicity Jane ain't got nothing on American Crafts stickers. Like, American Crafts could take notes from Felicity Jane chipboard letter stickers because those things require no extra glue. They stick right down. In fact, you have to be super careful because once they're stuck down there, they are stuck. They ain't going nowhere. I love that about it. I love it. I love it. I love them because if you buy American Craft stickers, a lot of times, like, they practically just fall off the page. They always need extra glue, but not the Felicity Jane ones. And they're beautiful. Look how pretty. They're so lovely. I just love it when there's chipboard alphabets in our kits because they're super sticky and they always look really, really pretty. They're gorgeous. My favorite. So now I'm just going to add this little tag with the date on the top and one more staple. And then that will pretty much complete this layout, just odds and ends, little bits and pieces. Through my tag hole, I put a piece of, it's called twill tape. It's from Stampin' Up. I've had it for a long time. I haven't looked to see if they still sell it or not. I'm a little scared to look because I am almost out, but they make gorgeous, gorgeous trim for tags. And I love how they kind of like, it kind of like unruffles. It's so cute. So I'm thinking about using one of these large enamel hearts, and I do end up adding one to the layout right there. Just one. I think I'm going to kind of hoard these. I really do. I didn't want to put more than one on my page, so yeah, I think I might be, you know, using one here and one there. At least I used one, right? So, I have all of my little bits and pieces on this layout done, and now I'm going to go through. So I drew all those little doodly lines on the arrows, and I want to add doodly lines to some of the other layers to bring those black outlines up to other parts of the layout so it's not just on the arrows. And so that's going to be my last little final touch to this layout, is just outlining the tag and some of the other bits and pieces and layers on this layout. Thank you so much for joining me today with my stencil play layout. This is a little bit of a longer video, so if you got to the bitter end, yay! I hope you have a wonderful day, and we will see you again next week. And be sure to check out Beth's video as well. Hers will be coming up today, and her layout is super cute. Bye!